Yeah, hello. My name is Rajkumar Pant, and when I was at IIT Madras for my masters, my friends used to call me hybrid. That is because even though I belong to North India, I when I went to IIT Madras, I decided to actually get to know more about the culture and about the food and about the other things regarding the states in south of India. So that's why I used to move around a lot, mostly with people from Andhra Pradesh and Kerala and Karnataka. So my North Indian friends used to call me, "You are a hybrid man. You keep going, between us and them and all that." I said, "Look, there's nothing like us and them. See, we have come to this institute in the south, having spent most of our lives in the north, so we should take advantage." And actually, it was so nice that the lot of friends from mostly I was hanging out with people from Andhra Pradesh because we had a common interest in music. I was very much interested in classical music and ghazals at that time. I was a big fan of Jagjit Singh and Ghulam Ali and all those stalwarts. And when I actually spoke to some of my friends, I remember Murthy, Chalam, these other people who were my regular hangouts. And we used to discuss about music. They used to tell me about the Carnatic music, and they took me to some concerts also in the city. And that's how I actually started to see the synergy between the two schools of classical music in India. And I found that a lot of the ragas are similar. I mean, there's a different name for it, but actually it's the same. And it was so nice to really, get to know all this. And then the food. We actually went to lots of restaurants, had food. Okay, so after IIT Madras, I was, you know, appointed as an engineer in one of the HAL divisions, HAL Kanpur to be precise. So I spent 3.5 years in HAL Kanpur. In fact, that is the place where I also did my MTech project because we were taken away from IIT Madras after 2 semesters, and then there was a gap of 1 year. We were subjected to a lot of exposure and training by HAL at the Bangalore Staff College. And then after 1 year of leaving IIT Madras, we were then posted to specific division. So I was posted to HAL Kanpur, and when I was in HAL Kanpur, I actually did my MTech project. At that time, there was no email, etc. So my guide, Professor Damodaran, he used to tell me that you send me your letters and I will reply to you by letters. And it would take a month or so for exchange of data. I remember I went once for registration, once during the mid-sem for a discussion, and once during the end for evaluation. I only could go to IIT Madras thrice in my entire MTech project. So after completing my MTech project, etc. In that's why if you ask some students, they say that you joined in 83 but you finished in 86. So did you flunk for a year? This is what most of my students normally ask. And then I have to explain all this to them that no, this was a very unique kind of a program, tailor made by HAL Madras for our HAL, sorry, tailor made by IIT Madras for HAL engineers. So I was a design trainee, so I was allowed to do MTech in aerospace engineering in the department. I could choose my subjects, I could choose my electives. Although I always regret that there was a restriction put on the area in which I can do my MTech project. But that's fine. So after spending 3.5 years in HAL Kanpur, I was promoted and transferred to HAL Nasik. And from there, after completing my 5 year commitment to HAL, I actually shifted to IIT Bombay for a career in academics. I came as a lecturer, and subsequently I have been there. I am one of those very few characters who was able to join IIT Bombay without a PhD on the basis of my 5 year industry experience. So I joined IIT Bombay. I started doing a PhD in IIT Bombay, but I could not manage both teaching and research, unlike many of my other seniors could do. So after 2.5 years or so, I decided to abandon and go like a student. So I went to UK on a very prestigious scholarship, the Commonwealth Scholarship. And by that time, I had a family with 2 children. So all of us, the four of us with all our baggage, we shifted to England for 3 years. I had to stay back for another 6 months to finish my thesis and examination. My family came back after 3 years. So that's it. So 97 I came back after finishing my PhD, and since then I've been in IIT Bombay. And in between I've done many interesting things, including two assignments as a visiting professor, one in the US for a year and one in Singapore at NTU for a year. So right now I am a professor in IIT Bombay in the aerospace department. I specialize in the area of aircraft design, and what you see behind me is my passion, the so-called balloons, lighter than air systems. The technical word is lighter than air systems or LTS systems, but in for general public it can be called as balloons that fly. So I'm I'm making balloons that fly, and I'm having fun. What you see behind me is an airship that was made by us and flown in the IIT campus, IIT Bombay campus, as part of our research project. So this is what I do. I do research and teaching in aerospace engineering, mostly in aircraft design, optimization, air transportation. But my focus area for last 2 decades has been lighter than air systems, in which I'm considered to be one of the leading figures in the country.
Could you share a little more details on what this is, your current research
So you
that you're
see,
talking about?
an airship basically is a kind of aircraft which was lost in the history. Aviation started actually with airships because at that time we did not have the technology available. So it's a very interesting observation that the time when the Wright brothers were struggling to get the aircraft off the ground, there was a gentleman called Count Ferdinand von Zeppelin in Germany who was actually planning to start an airline with airships going across the ocean. Okay. So airships were many years ahead of the fixed wing aircraft, but then a series of accidents took place. The most famous of that is the Hindenburg disaster, and then there were follow up with some other accidents in UK, in US. After that, people started feeling that, oh, these are very dangerous and very unsafe systems. And yes, they were using hydrogen, which was very highly inflammable, and technology was not available. They were very large and bulky systems. So somewhere in end of 30s, end of 30s, beginning of 40s, this airship technology went into an hibernation, and the fixed wing aircraft, because of the funding, support, and growth and speed, they became popular. Now, what is happening now is suddenly we are again back to such systems because there is a renewed interest in creating aerospace systems that do not consume large amount of fuel, are environment friendly, we don't pollute the atmosphere. And people have realized, oh, for special applications like long endurance surveillance, these are the ones which are far more efficient. So recently, we have published a nice paper about the review of what is called as hybrid airships, an airship that is a combination of aircraft and airship. What is happening with them, and where they are going to be used. So mainly for transporting cargo in remote areas where there is no infrastructure, no airport, and also to do it in an environment friendly fashion. Noise is very low. Consumption, one can use an electrical airship and have zero emissions, or one can use a small engine compared to an aircraft. So that is why the world is again looking at these alternatives, and hence the area is emerging. So it's a very unique niche area. In IIT Madras also, I'm very happy to share that one of our IIT Bombay ex-students, who is a professor now, is working in this area. And in IIT Bombay, we are doing it. Plus, in IIT Kanpur, there is some work going on. And of course, in IISc Bangalore. So there are very few places where work is happening in this area. See, nowadays we actually can use helium as a gas rather than hydrogen. Although, with the development in technology, people have also come up with interesting solutions to use hydrogen with adequate amount of safety. For example, we did a small experiment in our Gymkhana ground in IIT Bombay, in which we intentionally set a small balloon full of hydrogen to fire, and we took a video. What happens? Because many people think, oh, it will explode, it will cause danger to your students and your researchers, etc., etc. But we said, no, look, it doesn't happen like that. The balloon is actually filled at very low pressure. it's slightly more than atmospheric to maintain the shape. So what happens is, and we use a very interesting material. Okay, that's a that's a kind of a trade secret, but we use a very specialized material. So when you ignite a balloon intentionally, also, it doesn't cause a huge explosion or a rupture. It gives you enough time to save yourself and walk away. And that video has become very, very popular globally. Many people have asked me whether they can show it, and they have borrowed it from me. And it is actually allowing hydrogen to come back as a mode of providing buoyant lift in airships, because helium is very good, but it's very expensive, approximately 9 to 10 times more expensive than hydrogen. And also there are logistic issues in supplying helium in remote areas, so it becomes a non-starter. It becomes a very niche kind of a product, very expensive. So we also, we use helium if we have the funds available, and if the funding agency says no, we'll give you money, you use helium, we use it. But otherwise, as a as a university professor, I can't afford to play with helium regularly. It's very expensive. Although now I have purchased a special compressor to push helium back from a balloon into the cylinder to save money. But anyway, coming back to what it is. So this is basically a gas-filled balloon, and we are using this in this particular picture. It is flying above the Gymkhana ground of IIT Bombay. We were doing a project on autonomous airships which can fly without any direct control by a pilot. And as part of that particular project, which was sponsored by the Aeronautics R&D Board of India, we did some experiments in our Gymkhana ground. I had a very nice team of interns and students, including I had an association with student from Brazil who came over, and he was actually piloting my airship. So we did an experiment at that time. And also one very interesting thing we tried. So in case a balloon like this goes out of control, then it will start drifting into populous areas, and it's not a good thing. So what we did is, my students devised a system which can remotely be triggered, and it can actually create a hole in the top of the balloon and bring it down. And we tested that system, and we were fortunate that the airship was able to be recovered within the IIT Bombay campus, just before the lake. As you know, we have a very beautiful lake in our campus called Powai Lake. So the last tree before Powai Lake was where the balloon got stuck after it was deflated. So we continue to work, and we have actually working on the same area. Asking you asked me about transportation of people from Mumbai to Chennai, etc., using airships. I would not recommend that because it's a slow vehicle. What I would recommend is that, if, for example, the Chennai city, if there are floods in Chennai city, for example, which happened recently, and you would like to do a long endurance surveillance of where relief supplies are needed, where people are stuck. For that purpose, today people are using drones, but drones have a limited, endurance, maybe half an hour, maybe 1 hour. An airship can be easily flown for 8 hours, 9 hours, no problem. It's very, very low consumption of fuel. We did an experiment recently in Dehradun, where we deployed a balloon for 8 days non-stop. Okay. Ultimately, we got tired, and we had to go back home after finishing our experiment. So we just brought it down and deflated it. But it would have remained for a month non-stop at a particular location with a cable. So that is called as an aerostat, which is a kind of one variety of LTS systems. But when you want long endurance surveillance, uh, of course, it cannot be used in very bad weather conditions. If it is very windy, and you know the weather is very disturbing, then the balloon will not be able to hold itself. But in calm weather conditions, if you want to do long endurance surveillance, this is a very good mode. So we are trying to push this technology for various applications in the country and also globally.